everyone. Welcome to the It Shouldn't Happen to Us podcast, where your wannabe sales gurus come at you from the heart of Miami with tales of woe from the field. This is Carlos and Sophia, and we're building sales and sales teams just like you guys are, and we get the struggle. As gurus, it shouldn't happen to us, but it seems to.
How are you, Sophia?
Oh, I'm good. How you doing, Carlos?
How am I doing? Do you know how much sleep I got last night?
I got sleep?
Legitimately 4 hours sleep. Something wrong with me.
Why?
Because I got up at 5 because I had to prep something for getting to a client and I had to leave at 7, and it was just an idiot, basically. And I just didn't get my shit together, and so I'm working at midnight. You'll have seen the emails I sent you at. What time was my emails last night? You were lovely tucked up in bed when I'm sending you nonsense emails at midnight. However, that's my cross to bear. That's because I wasn't prepared, and that's on me, not on you. What's the topic for this week's podcast, Soph?
Onboarding and hiring.
Onboarding salespeople. We're talking about salespeople, right? Onboarding salespeople?
Salespeople, specifically, yes.
And that is a topic that is rich with woe. We're supposed to know how to do stuff like that. That's what we tell clients how to do, right? Onboarding.
Yeah, we
teach
train
our clients all that beautiful stuff. Let me guess. Scale of 1 to 10, where would you put us in terms of... We know what good looks like, right? We know what 10 looks like because we teach clients that. So on that scale, 1 to 10, 10 being good, what we teach clients, you know, when they don't do it and we like scratch our head and say, oh, this is terrible. That stuff that we know what good looks like. And we often judge our clients for not being at that high standard. If that's 10, and if 1 is you get a new salesperson starts and you say, go for it. If that's 1, right? Where do you think we are on the scale of 10 to 1? 1 to 10.
Honestly, I think we are at a 6.5, and that might be generous.
Generous. That is so generous.
Yeah.
Do you remember your onboarding, Sophia?
I do. I remember receiving the night before my first starting date. I remember receiving an email with the subject line, a brain dump, ...
A brain dump. There's elegance. Yes, that sounds like the kind of onboarding we would have given you. When was that? About 4 or 5 years ago? Probably
4 years ago.
Right? 4 years ago. A brain dump. Now, go and make plenty of sales armed with this fabulous brain dump. You go for it. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And
how well
Carlos,
prepared did you feel?
I didn't really feel that prepared, honestly. And I'll tell you why. Because...
Well, partly because you got a brain dump and that was all, but carry on.
Well, because I had a bunch of videos that I was asked to watch, which was great, but I just was sitting at my desk kind of twiddling my thumbs because my email wasn't set up yet, and I didn't know how I should prioritize this brain dump. And it was set up by week 1, week 2, but half of those things would have required me to speak to someone else on the team, and I didn't have their names or emails or contact information yet either. So the team really wasn't ready to receive me by any means.
I tell you what's just occurred to me now, and it's terrible that it has just occurred to me, but I'm going to imagine the weekend before you start. I'm going to guess you started on a Monday. I can't remember what day it was when you started. Let's imagine it was a Monday. I'm going to imagine that weekend you were talking to your buddy, your best buddy, or your mum or something, right? And you were saying, start my new job on Monday. This team, these are like sales experts. This is going to be slick. These guys really know what they're doing. I bet you were imagined that you were joining this like Olympian prepared team And I can imagine that it was a little bit of a letdown when what you received was a brain dump, right?
It was a little bit of a letdown, but I was so excited. I mean, of course, I was terrified because I was leaving my corporate America job with great perks, and I was taking quite the leap of faith to come on to our team.
You really were.
I really was,
really
but
were.
I think we've gotten a little better. You know, Carlos, it's almost
We got better
so
when
many...
you took over the process. It only got better because you took over the process. Leave it to me and Antonio. My goodness.
I still have plenty to learn. It's almost like in sales, you think about how tricky prospecting is and how much work and energy goes into prospecting, that when you finally get an intro call or a discovery call, you don't want to blow it. And the same thing with a candidate. You're either, whether you're investing money on Indeed or LinkedIn Jobs, or you're working your network, to finally get in front of somebody, man, you want to be prepared for that first interaction, because candidates are checking you out as much as they're checking, as much as you're checking them out. So, and then it's not enough to just, let's say you get a great candidate, use some type of assessment, which we can talk about. Then you onboard them, and you can lose them in that first 90 days if you don't onboard them correctly either. So let's say you do manage to get a rock star. Well, the deal isn't sealed yet, is it?
So you just said something interesting, I think. You said a lot of interesting things. You often say a lot of interesting things. But you just said, I've still got plenty to learn. And I don't know if that's accurate. I'm going to challenge you on it. I don't think it's that we've got stuff to learn.
Maybe it's to implement.
We've got plenty to do. I think we know what good looks like. We know exactly what good looks like. We know exactly how to hire, so we know how to advertise for a role. We know how to write that role description as if it's written from a marketeer's point of view, not from an HR point of view. We know that stuff. We really do need to put some standard job descriptions and marketing material for recruitment in our toolbox. That's a note for us. We've got to do that. Then we know how to do the interview. We know how to do assessments. We know how to interpret those assessments. Interesting, right? That the last hire we made, we didn't even read the assessment. There must be something wrong with us. It shouldn't happen to us, Sophia. There's something fundamentally wrong from us. I don't know if we're frightened of failure or frightened of success, but we know what good looks like. Then we know how to establish daily rhythms and cookbooks. We know how to do the top 10 behaviors that anybody, and how to coach those behaviors. We know exactly what that process looks like. We know what a toolbox should look like in terms of templates and cadences and daily activities, and where to find the lists and where to find the numbers. And we've got videos of what a prospecting activity looks like. We even teach people how to journal this stuff. We know what good looks like. It ain't about knowing. It ain't about learning. It's about doing.
Yeah, you're right.
I was listening to a cool Gary V. I was, Ask Gary V. It's a cool book. I was listening to the audiobook. I was listening to it. And he said, and it was just today, and he was saying in the bit I was listening to today, he was saying it's like business is 30% coming up with the right idea and 70% execution. And even that feels an overstretch to me. I think it's 10% creativity and 90% execution and knowing what your strengths are. You know, we complement each other's strengths. Fortunately, your execution, thank goodness. How do you feel carrying that burden, Sophia?
Well, it's quite heavy.
So tell me, when we were last recruiting, well, tell our listening public how you go about identifying candidates, because just for context, for anybody who's listening to this and interested in how we're gonna, how we're growing this business, we're looking for kind of 2 or 3 different roles at the moment, and we're growing a scalable business model, and we're looking for sort of salespeople, and we're looking for prospectors. So in that pursuit, you're kind of leading that pursuit for us, Soph. What are you tell the team how you're finding candidates?
Well, I realized pretty quickly that the person I'm looking for, I was not going to find them on Indeed or LinkedIn Jobs. I realized that, and the reason for that is that, you know, me and Carlos are in a very kind of specific industry. But now, you know, here's the thing, Carlos, is that I think the same thing happens for you. My mind changes every single day. It's like, am I looking for, when I'm thinking about hiring a salesperson, do I care more about their exposure to what we do? And I'm sure that we're not alone in this boat. We know what good looks like. We know that you shouldn't worry about their industry experience, and you're better off looking for someone who loves money and wants to sell and understands prospecting is important, and that you only get paid to prospect in sales. But still, I think I still feed myself the BS that, well, if they have industry knowledge, if they know us, that you know, that'll help. But maybe that's a bias. What do you think?
What does Antonio always say? You train for skill, and you hire for attitude, and you train skill. Who's always done well working what we do? It's winners. It's people with a winner mindset. It's people with high levels of ambition and drive. It's people with great integrity. It's people with the right, you know, the right cultural fit. We are, despite looking at me, we are a young team. We're a young team. We bring youthful energy, and I think cultural fit, ambition and drive, integrity, and a winner, that kind of winner mentality. Hey, we can teach the rest, right? Can't we? So that's what we're good at. We teach the rest.
Well, but here's the thing. That's why these assessments are so powerful, because
those are the assessments we do, and we don't read. Is that the ones you mean?
Yeah, those.
Okay, they're the ones.
Those
okay.
ones. Exactly,
yeah.
those.
Yeah, those ones.
Those, and I'm sure all these assessments are good, right? There's hundreds of assessments out there. They're probably all good. It's like a gym. There's 1,000 different kinds of gyms out there. Do you use it or not? Do you use it in the way it's meant to be used or not, right? So when these assessments can actually detect if that person is a learner, and I think that's the most important thing. Maybe you find someone who's never sold before, but if they're hungry to learn how to sell, that's what's up. That's what we're looking for, right?
Lifelong learner, high self-awareness, because we've had a couple of those guys as well, right? With just completely no concept. I don't know if it's a cognitive issue or what it is. No concept of how they impact the world. No self-awareness at all. They will say something and it, with no empathy, zero empathy. You know, that's hard to train. You can't really train empathy. I don't know. I suppose if you were, you know, a psychologist or whatever, maybe you can build that skill. But I don't think you can train empathy. Can you train ambition and drive? I don't know. I don't think so.
I know. And so then, you know how old school people always say, I was sitting at a table with someone last week who's like, oh, I always try to hire people that are in sports. But you know what? Like, what if they're
that's a bias. In sports? That's probably because they were in sports. That's because they were in sports. How many times do we hear, oh, I like the discipline that a military. Now, I'm all for hiring military people. Absolutely. 100%, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to fall into the. Well, I say I'm not. I'm sure I would, given half a chance. I would like to think that I'm not going to fall into the trap of thinking that because someone's been in the military, they have this, this next level discipline. I'm sure there are those that have, and there are those that haven't. Are sports people winners? Well, only if you win at sports. I did a lot of sports. I promise you, I wasn't a winner at sports. So. Yeah, those guys. Yeah, I've been with those guys as well. I only hire people who have been in sports, professional sports, or
well,
amateur
you know what?
sport.
Here. How about this? This might be. I'm going to be in our listeners' face a little bit and say, you know what? What if being in sports also might mean that they don't like to lose, and there can be a little bit of a sore loser? And we know in sales you got to learn to fail to win. So it's like there's pluses and minuses of all. At the end of the day, my sense is use the freaking assessment before you even interview them. Right.
So when you do an assessment, what are you looking? What are the things that are the most important to you when you're looking at an assessment?
Well, to me, and we know what good looks like, but to me, and I'm learning. No, I'm not learning. I'm implementing. That was so good.
Go.
That's
we go. Brilliant. We're perfectly in progress, Sophia. We're perfectly in progress.
Perfectly in progress. Self-awareness.
Yep.
If they have no self-awareness.
So we've got self-awareness. There's one. We'll order them in a minute. I'm going to make some notes. Self-awareness. What's number 2?
Ability to learn.
Lifelong learner. Lifelong learner. Self-awareness. Give me another one. Number 3. These are in no order. I want to put ambition and drive in the mix. Can we put
follow through?
Well, I'm going to put ambition and drive on the list. You're going to put on follow through. That's like complete a finisher in the old Myers-Briggs language. Follow through. Okay, let's put 2 more on the list. These are our top.
Let's see,
5. What's number 5? I do like that kind of winner mentality. Winner. There is something about a winner. There's something about, well, you know what now? Maybe I've always liked that and valued that because I know that I don't do a good job in onboarding, so you better be a winner or you ain't going to last very long. Maybe we're going to take winner off. Because if you've got a high level of ambition and drive, that winner's mindset was historically important to me, but I probably was solving for poor execution in onboarding when I had that on my list of on my list. So let's get this straight. Where are we at on the list? We've got lifelong learner, we've got self-awareness, we've got ambition and drive, we've got follow through. Mm-hmm. I'm going to add to the list need for approval. Having a low need for approval. I think in sales, God, how many times do we see it where the high need for approval gets in our way? Hey, listen, I live that journey every day. What else are you going to add to the list?
I mean, one more. There's probably many more, but I'll just add one more, which is takes responsibility. How can they got to be able to own what they did or didn't do that led to the result they wanted or didn't want, right? Takes responsibility.
So we've now got our magic list of 6, and this is out of 20, right? But the ones that let's just imagine this is our list of 6. So we've tested, and we can test for all these things, right? And we do test for all these things. We don't pay a lot of attention to the test, and that's where we start operating from our gut. But we test for all these things. We've got our list. Lifelong learner, self-awareness, ambition and drive, which for me is the number 1, but no particular order. Follow through, no need for approval or a low need for approval, and takes responsibility. And we find our magic candidate. We've read the assessment. We love it. What's the next step?
Interview them and have great questions.
Give me your favorite. What's your favorite interview question?
Well, it's funny because we did a workshop last week where I learned that most of my interview questions were shit.
Give me an example of a bad interview question. I'll give you my favorite bad. My favorite bad interview question is how many ping pong balls would it take to fill a Volkswagen Beetle? I always said that because that tests for cognitive function.
You asked me
right?
that one. I totally remember you asking me that question.
Because, who wants to work with ignoramuses, right? I just don't want it. I don't want somebody who can't think. I don't want to be on the team with that person. That's misery. So that's my favorite bad interview question. What's your favorite bad one?
what's your biggest weakness? And then what do people always respond? Like, that I'm
I'm
such
too
a hard
perfect.
worker.
I'm too hard worker.
I'm too organized. I'm like, oh,
I'm
please.
so organized. I'm just too good looking. That's what gets in my way. I'm too good looking.
Yeah. That's
I
it.
hate that. Hate that question. What's your biggest weakness? It's
it's a good question.
Do you know what? I would imagine there was a day once, like in the 70s, where that was first asked. And that was like, wow, that's brilliant. A genius question. Brilliant.
Yeah.
What a genius question to ask. Your biggest weakness. Wow, that's genius. Can you imagine there was a day when that happened? That question got old, I reckon, in about 2 weeks. It took about 2 weeks for globally that question to rot on the vine. Okay, what's a good question? And I'm going to show you my favorite interview move. Right, what's a good question?
Well, I liked one that I learned from Antonio, which was, obviously this is an interview for a sales position. So, hey, Carlos, typically if you've got a big sales meeting coming up, do you prepare?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. So what might you do to prepare for this sales call, big sales opportunity potentially?
Well, I know where this is going, but okay. Right. Well, I would probably go on LinkedIn and I would look at the company on the internet, and I would do some research in the individual, and I'd maybe look on social media, all that good stuff. Great.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. So why don't you go ahead and spend a couple minutes telling me about me?
Oh, well, I don't know about you.
Right.
No.
Thank you.
Oh shit. Yeah. No.
Thank you for improving this simulation.
And scene.
And then obviously they'll give, if they're smart, they'll and they prepared for the meeting, they'll be able to elaborate a little bit on you, right? Not go too into the weeds, but if they haven't, then they sound like an idiot. And the magic is when you ask them if they gave a crap answer to that.
Yeah.
Ask them, so on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being amazing, 1 being not great at all or pretty bad, how would you rank yourself? And if they give themselves anything above a 6, then there's no self-awareness there.
Yeah. Yep. But I've been with Antonio when he does this. So he'll say, oh, so you haven't researched me, so maybe this isn't an important meeting for you. I mean, it's brutal. It's brutal to watch.
Brutal to watch.
And then he'll go right on the heels with, hey, how do you think this is going 1 to 10? Right, he'll go right. This is when he hits them with that. How do you think this is going 1 to 10? And when they go, oh, I don't know, a 7, he goes, you see, that's telling me something terrible about self-awareness.
Yeah. I love it.
He's brutal.
He's so good, though. The person will be butchering the interview, doing really bad. And at the end of the interview, they'll say, he'll say, so who's your significant other? Oh, that's Rebecca. Great. So after this interview, you call Rebecca and she asks you, so how'd it go? What are you going to tell her?
Yeah. Oh, it went great.
I think it went great. All right. What if and he's ruthless. He'll say, well, what if I told you it's not good at all? Then what would you say? I would still say it's pretty good.
Okay. Here's my favorite interviewing move. Right. So we're gonna let's do it. Let's role play. I'm interviewing you. Sales position. Tell me your experience. Talk me through your resume. I don't know, all that bullshit that you do. And then I'm gonna say, hey. And this is the magic move. Sophia, can I share something important? We're a small team. We're more of a family. And every role in this team is vital. We rely on one another. And this role that we're recruiting for now is as vital or more vital than most. And we need someone who's a winner for this role. And we need somebody who's an A player. I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it in you today. Ooh, what happens then? Go on, play it both ways. Play it wimpy. I'm just not seeing it, Sophie.
Oh, all right. Well, okay, I guess I'm not a fit for the role then.
Okay, bye. That's
Fine.
what happened. Now
Right.
play it the other way. Hey,
No,
Sophia,
I'm an A
just
player.
seeing it.
I'm an A player. I've won awards in my last role for top sales, and I was in sports.
Hey, Sophia, it was a test. You've passed the test. Good
Wow.
for you. That I love that. That's a fabulous.
Oh my God.
Problem is now we've put it out on the internet, and anybody who applies to join our
We've
one
given
of our
them
growth
the
pods, we're just giving them the
given
magic. Hey, but let's see how people do it.
We'll see.
Let's see how people do it. So now we've found our. What's the next important step? We've found a magic addition to the team.
Well,
Is the next important step the day before they start? Say, here's a was it a brain dump?
well,
Is that what
yeah,
we sent you?
you
A
know
brain
what?
dump?
Even before you send them anything, Carlos, you probably want to get all their accounts set up. You know, their email set up. If there's technology, a computer they're going to need, get that set up.
You mean like somebody gives a shit, right?
Right.
We should really behave like somebody gives a. You're right.
That might be a good plan. Good plan.
It shouldn't happen. We're supposed to know what this looks like.
And it happened. It just
terrible.
happened.
Did it just happen?
Well, my latest hire, it did not happen. I felt real good about it, but it took 2 abominations of onboarding for me to learn.
2 absolute
Where they're sitting there-
abominations.
Yeah, where they're sitting there at their desk, you know, just staring into outer space. And also, onboarding, I mean, here's something that I'll do in the future. Those first 2 weeks where you hire someone, freaking clear your calendar. I mean, the first 2 people I hired, my calendar was so slammed. I was like, hey, well, you have your brain dump, watch some videos, reach out to some people.
Go make magic.
Go.
Go make magic.
Yeah, that didn't work. And I can imagine being on the receiving end of that and just being sitting there like, okay, all right. So, you know, those first 2 weeks, you should probably really spend a lot of quality time with them. Get to know. So you've got someone new on your team. Get to know them as a person. Ask them to tell you about their family. Try to figure out what their motivators are. What's their favorite birthday cake? What's their favorite candy? Like, how many companies have, you know, incentives where, the top sales guy gets a gift card to Outback Steakhouse and the guy's a fucking vegan, right? Like, I don't know. Right? Like, we motivate people, we reward people and motivate people in ways that are just so irrelevant. And it could all be, this all could be squashed with a simple conversation of like, what kind of person are you? How do you like to get feedback? Do you like to get feedback in the morning? Do you like to get feedback in the afternoon? Do you like to get it in an email? Do you like to get feedback in a team huddle? Do you want the positive feedback first, then the negative feedback? Maybe you are somebody that doesn't need positive feedback at all. You feel like people are blowing smoke up your ass. Maybe you just want the negative feedback. You want to go. All these things in those first 2 weeks, wouldn't it be great to create a cheat sheet of your people? These are things I've learned.
It's also, we could go on all day, right? How are we
Really
going to
could.
onboard? How are we going to, what kind of contract are we going to, and I don't mean legal contract, I mean kind of like a spirit contract with each other about, hey, you know, well, this is what's going to make us all happy. And these are the kind of things that I'm going to do or you're going to do that's going to make everybody mad and upset.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, a stitch in time saves 9, as my grandmother used to say. It's like, if you can go slow to go fast, right? Go slow to go fast. Take a little time. It's so important to get a sales. You remember what Marcus used to tell us? What's the cost of a mishire in sales? Do you remember the number?
Like 2 million, 2.5 million, something like that.
It was a bonkers number. It was 20 times base salary plus.
Pits.
So 20 times. When you roll in the wasted time, wasted manager time, there's sometimes the corrosion effect on the team culture. There's the impact of lost opportunity cost of leads, territory. I mean, you could stack it on, and the cost of replacement, recruiter costs, and legal costs, and you go on and on and on. And, you know, it's probably $1, $2, $3 million. It's a crazy, crazy number. And we run at it like it's, you know, it doesn't really matter. I tell you that what I convince myself often it isn't true. I convince myself that every sales hire is an experiment. and that there's no such thing as a mishire. There's only there's no hiring mistake. There's a retention mistake. And I think that has got some merit. I think that you're never going to be able to completely solve for a false positive. You can solve the, what are they called? They're called beta failures or whatever. The false negatives, you can do a little bit of better job with false negatives. You're never going to solve a false positive. And so, having some pretty robust measure of who makes it past 90 days, I think is important. But once someone's made it past 90 days, they're in the team, they're in the family. I mean, now we're all in this together. And to get past the 90 days, it should be pretty clear what creates success to 90 days. The onboarding plan, prescriptive, and, with a real solid toolbox. And we know how to do it. We've not done it. It's an execution issue at our end. We know what good looks like. Why don't we commit to our next hire that we're going to have all this in place, the daily rhythms, the templates, the how to log on to HubSpot and how to get your Zoom info leads and what the templates are and where our strong relationships in the market are and on and on and on and on and on. Let's make that. Let's deliver for our next hire, right?
So important, everything you say. And as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking it's so easy to say that the person that we've hired is just not a fit. Well, you shouldn't have hired them if the assessment said they're not a fit. And if they are a fit and they're still not delivering results, the easy thing is to externalize it and say, well, oh my God, well, why don't they do this and that? When I was in their position, I did this. And it's like, well, what are you doing as a leader? And it's like taking extreme ownership of why they're not delivering.
Beautiful mindset, extreme ownership. Taking the kind of extreme ownership that we want them to take.
Which is uncomfortable as hell, but really as leaders, it's so difficult to work on the business versus in the business, right? We're running. When there's nothing more important than making sure that your team, everyone on the ship is proud to be here, happy to be here. They feel taken care of. They feel seen. They feel motivated. They feel connected to their cause and the company's cause. And like, really, what is more important than that? Well, we let our to-do list run our lives, and next thing you know, someone's handing in their 2 weeks.
What's the Bill Gates quote? Busy is the new stupid, right? Hey, listen, we're at the end of time. Yeah. I think today's episode, which is basically we know what good looks like in terms of recruitment, and it really shouldn't happen to us, but it absolutely does seem to happen to us because there's a difference between knowing what good looks like and executing what good looks like, and we live in that difference. So let's fix that, Sophia. And for and if you've stayed along with us for the last 30 minutes or so, we're going to wish you a week of good selling, and it's goodbye from Sophia.
And goodbye from Carlos.
Goodbye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.